Welcome back, everybody. This is the review of issue 93. It's been 12 weeks since I've done a review of one of these, and honestly, I almost forgot I had to do this. Or should I say, I almost forgot that I get to do this. So let's go ahead and get started. This one's going to be a short one, which is good. First thing we're going to talk about is the HCT-2001 Dragonboat Freighter. The Dragonboat class freighter is a true workhorse of a ship, designed solely to carry as much freight as possible and to last as long as possible. As such, the box-like craft are still seen widely across the galaxy, though they were most popular with independent traders or smaller corporations in the latter days of the Republic. The Dragon boat consists of an angular front section resembling some kind of shell, split apart to reveal a narrow core. This section houses the cockpit and crew quarters and comes with the option to include a gun turret. Should a prospective owner intend to travel across the galaxy's less secure trading routes or have experienced firsthand the threat of piracy and want not to be caught out again. The bulky sections reaching out on either side of this area limit the views of the pilots, of which there could be two, to a degree, but certain the ship's main engines, to a degree, but contain the ship's main engines, with powerful rear braking thrusters, which are necessary to propel a dragon boat if at full cargo capacity held in the ship's large aft section. The aft section of a dragon boat is devoted entirely to cargo and consists simply of a series of large containers numbering up to 7 on each side. Each one can be accessed individually, allowing captains to perform rounds of deliveries rather than simple A to B haulage jobs. Meaning that you could maybe have 3 or 4 stops and drop pods off on each stop as opposed to just going from A to B with all the same stuff. Cargo over comfort. Neither the designers nor the buyers of the Dragon boat are under any illusion that this ship was built for anything but hauling cargo. It was never intended for leisurely travel, and as such, the freighter's cockpit is utilitarian and cramped, with no attempt made to cater to the galaxy's taller species. A lot of this is due to the amount of space in the cockpit that is devoted to computer consoles, which allow the crew to operate their cargo containers remotely. The ship can be piloted by a crew of 2 for the smallest commercial outfits, but often larger crews are employed. The cockpit can be entered by a door to the rear or via an opening in the floor that leads directly to the lower deck. Vermin Thrax. One of the more morally challenging uses of the HCT-2001 was that of a slave ship, but unfortunately the type was used so frequently for this purpose by Trandoshan slavers that it took on the unofficial name of the Trandoshan Slave Ship. One of the most infamous of these was the Vermin Thrax, owned by a Trandoshan hunter Garnak. He and his clan used the freighter to hunt down beings to be used as prey in a sick hunting game popular among Trandoshan clans. For this dark purpose, the Vermin Thrax hold was converted into prison cells and the ship equipped with a chin turret blaster set into a gunnery station under the cockpit to allow it to be operated independently. The freighter also had 3 powerful floodlights to track down victims. A set of sharp teeth of a demon from Trandoshan folklore was painted on the front of the ship, striking fear into the hearts of its victims. Last trip to Waska. During one of the Garnak's raids, he abducted Jedi Padawan Ahsoka Tano, taking her to the Trandoshan moon of Waska, where she was to be set free and then hunted as prey by members of Garnak's clan. On the moon, Ahsoka encountered 3 captive Jedi younglings, a Corellian named Khalifa, a Syrian named Omer, and a Twi'lek named Jinx. Ahsoka managed to rekindle the younglings' broken spirits, and though Khalifa fell victim to one of Garnak's hunting parties, Ahsoka, Omer, and Jinx were able to ambush Garnak's ship, the Vermin Thrax, during its next stop on Waska. A fight ensued in which a stray blaster shot blew out the ship's controls. The Vermin Thrax crashed on Waska Beach, with Ahsoka and the Jedi managing to escape just in time, taking the ship's only remaining captive, a Wookiee named Chewbacca, with them. Snaggletooth, the Dragonboat-class freighter, appeared for the first time in the third season Clone Wars episode Padawan Lost. That's what we talked about up here. In this episode, the darker side of the freighter is seen when Ahsoka Tano and a group of Jedi initiates were captured by Trandoshan slavers. Later in Season 4, notorious bounty hunter Cad Bane, if you watched Book of Boba Fett, you know who Cad Bane is. If you didn't, but maybe you watched the Clone Wars, you definitely know who Cad Bane is. Uses another dragon boat to effect an escape from Coruscant's Judiciary Central Detention Center before crash landing on the swamp world of Nal Hutta. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. Let's see. One of the captives captives in the Clone Wars episode Padawan Lost, Sniverian Kot Maul, was given an outfit that is loosely based on the one worn by the Kenner action figure Snaggletooth. Interesting. I would say very loosely based because the only thing about it is he's got red. And so there you go. Military and naval command structures. War can throw a planet, a system, or the whole galaxy into chaos. But in order to rise above the chaos and achieve victory, a fighting force must maintain order across the various units and battalions in service to an army or navy. This order is maintained through understood structures of command. Imperial Fist. Emperor Palpatine's military force had the largest and most fiercely enforced command structure in galactic history, dwarfing those of the various militias and rebel cells which the new order sought to stamp out. At the very bottom of the military chain of command were the stormtroopers, blindly loyal and organized in battalions of 820. Stormtroopers ruthlessly enforced the laws of the Empire, bringing terror to wherever they were shipped by the vast Imperial Starfleet. Above these foot soldiers was a plethora of meticulously determined ranks and officers. In the field, lieutenants, captains, and generals, as well as admirals in the case of the Navy, reported to regional Moffs, who typically controlled a sector each, while these commanders in turn reported to a Grand Moff. So everybody knows Grand Moff Tarkin. He was basically one of those regional commanders, responsible for a number of imperial sectors. Between the Grand Moffs and the Emperor himself was a seemingly endless array of high-ranking imperial military officers and advisors, and sitting outside the normal military command structure was the Emperor's right-hand man and Sith apprentice, uh, Dark Lord Darth Vader. Rebel Alliance. As Palpatine's empire rose to power, a group of senators led by Mon Mothma of Chandrila began a resistance movement that would fight the new order from the shadows. Eventually, Mothma and her allies, most notably Bail Organa of Alderaan, realized that the only way to defeat the Empire was to raise a military force, which would be greater than the Empire's in determination, if not in numbers. As Commander-in-Chief of the Rebel Alliance military, Mothma awarded rank on experience and worked closely with her generals to come to a consensus on major operations. She regularly took advice from her senior military officers, many of whom were Imperial defectors with no sectors to call their own. There were no regional MOFs, and as the Alliance military was staffed entirely by volunteers, there was said to be far less of the infighting and competitiveness that marred the vast Imperial chain of command. Military uniforms and armor. Left is the Imperial uniforms. Were minimal and designed in cold, neutral tones, mainly of white, gray, and black. The uniforms were colored according to rank and used to create an overarching sense of order and obedience. The stormtroopers' faceless armor was also to be an intentional move to instill fear in any who stood before them. Below these two here is the Rebel Alliance uniforms were more rough and ready than their Imperial counterparts. While the sense of belonging and order was desired, a lack of resources meant that many were often cobbled together from old civilian clothing. Left, the Resistance faced similar issues of resources as the Rebel Alliance had before it, with their fighters and flyers again kitted out in basic, largely utilitarian uniforms. Above right, the First Order was modeled in almost every way as Palpatine's galactic empire, and this was especially true of its ground troops' cold, faceless uniforms. So here's Mon Mothma, and that's General Medine, who was a former Imperial who had defected to the Alliance. Okay, so the First Order and the Resistance. In the years after its defeat of the Empire at the Battle of Jakku, the New Republic became busy establishing a new, more peaceful galaxy, overseeing the disbanding and much of its own standing army, as well as the defeated Empire. But out in the unknown regions, a very different force was growing, led by the former Imperial military officers who had fled after the Battle of Jakku, and staffed by a new, more avowed militaristic fighting force than arguably even the Empire before it. The First Order helped Supreme Leader Snoke raise a new military based once again on Palpatine's New Order. The First Order and the Resistance. The new generation of admirals and generals would serve old imperial nobles and technologists in their fight to regain galactic supremacy. As the First Order grew stronger, armies of stormtroopers would inspire fear in the population of the galaxy once more. Filling out the bottom of the command structure, these new shock troops were fewer in number but far better trained and thoroughly indoctrinated to the First Order's cause, having been inducted from their parents as children and put into intensive training programs. Then, standing against this force, there was the Resistance, led by General Leia Organa, and the group sought to stand up to the threat from the unknown regions, where the disinterested New Republic would not. Taking its resources, fighters, and command structure from the Rebel Alliance, Leia's Resistance shared the Alliance's ideal of unity and determination over all-out aggression, and again was staffed entirely by volunteers willing to fall in line for the greater good. Imperial Command Insignia. So this is kind of interesting. With its roots in Republic military insignia used during the Clone Wars, Imperial rank plaques were worn on the left breast of the bearer's uniform and taken in conjunction with the number of code cylinders they carried, indicated the precise hierarchical status of the wearer. They comprised of chromed metal plate with raised colored rectangles in blue, red, orange, or gray. In the diagram, right, the code cylinders are denoted by the gray rectangles. So you see these gray rectangles. In the gray rectangles to the right and left of the plaque. Okay, so Grand Moff. This is Grand Moff, so all blue on the top, then red and orange. And then we have an Admiral, and you'll notice it has these two cylinders off either side. So that's all red and then blue. Then we have a General, which is red and blue with one cylinder. And then we have a Colonel 4 red, 4 blue, tightly put together with cylinders on either side. We have a major, listed same as the general, however only one code cylinder. A commandant, which is 3, but with 2 code cylinders. Then we have a captain, again 3 with red and blue, with only 1 cylinder, and then finally a lieutenant. And here is where you would see the cylinder. So you can see this one here is a general. General Veers wore the command insignia of 4 red and 4 blue blocks to indicate his rank. So that is a general. So that is everything for this issue. And again, this is all of the stuff and many more, much more that we did for this episode. So that is everything for issue 93. Finally finished issue 93 completely. In issue 94, we're going to get more of our pieces here. We're going to get, I assume, the other side. That's what that is. More of the side pieces, some of the detail pieces to be able to put in, and all of that kind of stuff. So I would assume that's what we're going to work on next time in issue 94. I want to thank you all for watching this, and may the force be with you always.